Okay, now for more on investments into the sport of ice hockey, I'm joined by Aaron Wilbur. He's the founder and CEO of thecoachesite.com. Welcome to the show. Thanks very much for taking some time for us.
Thanks for having me.
I want to talk about this has potential to get a bit awkward. A nation hosting its games and clearly wanting its ice hockey team in the rink. What do you think of the review that's going on right now?
I think it's probably appropriate. I think it probably benefits both sides, to be quite frank. Certainly China doesn't want their team to go and underperform, against the top competition in the world. And at the same time, I think for the benefit of growing the sport of hockey in China, whether or not China's national team is participating, I still think that the Olympics is going to serve to put the best players in the world on the ice in front of Chinese fans, and that's going to certainly benefit the sport long term in the country.
Now, China has gone all in on the Winter Games, a big step in a region not known for winter sports. Let's talk about the investment in ice hockey, for example, for athletes training, the quality of the ice rinks and development. What does that shape up to say? A country trying to build, compare it to trying to build like a world-class soccer team.
Well, it's a huge undertaking, and as an example, in 1994, Switzerland didn't qualify for the Winter Olympics in hockey. In 2014, they finished sixth, and during that 20-year span, Switzerland recognized that the investment needed to start at the grassroots level with the kids who were just starting out on the ice, and that it was a long-term play. And I think in the case of China, there's been an influx of new arenas, an influx of new programs. I sense what perhaps has been missing is that overarching development curriculum to provide young players the runway to become the best players that they can be. And I would also point out that there are a number of quality young Chinese players that have grown up in China. In many cases, they've made their way over to North America and are competing at the NCAA levels, at top junior leagues. Unfortunately, the 7-year window from when China was awarded the Winter Olympics to 2022, when they're going to host them, just didn't provide enough room for those players to qualify and fully develop into national team players.
Yeah, that's a quick turnaround. Now, we do know that many players in China are, say, from Canada or the U.S. How is recruiting going, and how will this figure into building a Chinese Olympic team?
Well, I think it's been a challenge. I think that, for example, if you look at South Korea, when they hosted the Winter Olympics in 2018, early on they had really clear guidelines for what players had to do and what requirements that they had to meet. Perhaps if they were, born in North America to play on the South Korean national team. I'm not sure that that's necessarily existed in China. So that's made the waters a little bit muddy. But I think that there's a bit of a competitive imbalance. If you were to look at the women's national team in China, they had the benefit of being able to offer salaries that were considerably higher than what the top female players could make playing over here in North America. Obviously, that's not the case when you look at the salaries in lieu of playing in the NHL. So I think it's been a little bit of apples and oranges, but there certainly are some really quality players. But again, we're talking about the best players in the world competing at the Olympics. And I'm not sure that the roster that they've assembled to date is in a position to compete at that level.
Interesting. Now, you touched on it, but to be clear, we've been talking about the men's team. The women's team that you just talked about, a solid squad, and really would not be facing the brutal draw that the Chinese men's team would have.
Well, correct. Yeah, in the men's case, they're in a pool up against Canada and the U.S., so that's incredibly daunting. On the female side, I mean, we have to remember on the female side of the sport, you've got Canada and the U.S., and then in all fairness, you've kind of got everybody else, and that's where the level playing field takes place. So, China is certainly in a position to compete, and with a strong showing, potentially could be in a position to medal if things go their way. But again, they've had the benefit of having that squad together over the period of a number of years, and being able to groom that group together. For the purpose of competing in these games.
Aaron, we touched upon this earlier, just about how important it is to grow any kind of sport internationally. And just like China developed a close relationship with the United States NBA, China is now working with the U.S. National Hockey League. Tell us about that relationship, why it's important, and what it's going to do for the growth of the game.
For sure. So I think it's incredibly important. So, currently they've played 2 series, or the NHL has brought 2 teams over to China to play games. They've played in front of sold-out arenas, which has been really positive. I think what it does is, watching any sport on television, I think only provides part of the picture. I think when you're able, especially in our sport, to get up close, see the speed of the game, see the physicality, it's so unique. So I think that really provides people a front row seat, to the level of competition that hockey provides. And hopefully that this relationship is longstanding. I know that the NHL is, COVID's kind of put a bit of a wrinkle in the plans that they had to continue growing the game in China, but I suspect that following the Olympics, once we get through COVID, that they'll return to playing games in China, and the more that can happen, there's obviously an extreme benefit. But I would also say that hopefully the broadcasting and perhaps showcasing just the NHL lifestyle and providing a bit of color to the personalities that exist in the NHL is going to go a long way as well in selling the sport.
Indeed, Aaron, and up close, it is really amazing to see that world-class talent. Thanks, Aaron Wilbur, founder and CEO of thecoachesite.com. We really appreciate your insight.
Thank you.